So, every time I post a top 5 free-to-play video, there will always be comments like this. Or this. And there's quite a number of them. There are always some people who wonder why Aromage isn't in the list. People just frickin' love Aromages so much for some reason. It's recommended to beginners all the time, and I'm making this video to tell you my thoughts about the archetype, and why it hasn't been in my recent top 5 free-to-play deck lists. First of all, I want to clarify that Aromages are not a terrible deck. They're actually a viable control strategy and is really good at generating advantage, especially life points. Their continuous spells and traps keeps giving you benefit and allows you to slowly out-resource your opponent. The Aromage monsters have all kinds of good effects, including card drawing, banishing cards from the graveyard and negating monster effects. The skill balance makes the deck a lot more consistent than many other decks, making board establishment easier. The archetype is also extremely easy to obtain. Many of their cards have N or R rarity and they either come from a single mini box or the card trader. The archetype sounds really viable, and it might be in lower rankings in ranked duels, because decks that are used below legend rank are mostly trash, especially near the end of each season. If you want to make a smart investment and get a cheap deck that's competitive and can get you to king of games, there are better deck choices to choose from. I always like to compare Aromages with another deck with a similar type of playstyle, which is Weather Painter. If you watched my last 2 top 5 free-to-play decks videos, you should remember that I put Weather Painters as the #1 best deck in the game. The two decks may seem quite similar, both being a control strategy and a back-row-reliant deck, but there are some important differences that make Weather Painter stand out. If you've played Aromages before, you should know that having your back row removed is one of the worst threats you can possibly receive from your opponent, which is very common in the current meta where Chaos Dragon Levianeer, Dragon Spirit of White, Artorigus and Rake Eerie are everywhere, and many popular generic extra deck monsters and staple back row can clear your continuous spells and traps easily. This isn't a problem for Weather Painters, as one of the most important reasons why Weather Painters are so good is its excellent back row recovery ability. If your back row gets destroyed, Weather Painter Cloud can just straight up put it right back into the field without any drawback. Look at other decks like Evil Eye. Catablepas provides protection for your equip spells and Medusa retrieves your cards back from your graveyard. The equip spell of Evil Eye of Selene, can even recover itself by paying life points and banishing a card as cost. Aromages don't have any of those. If your back row is destroyed, it's just gone forever and you'll have to continue playing without it until you draw into a new one. You might be thinking, hey, Cosmic Cyclone and Dragon Spirit of White banishes your back row instead, and Weather Painter Cloud ain't going to save you from that. Well, you're not wrong. But this brings us to the next point, which is search power. Aromages may have their own searcher, Humid Winds, but it only searches monsters and many people don't play many copies of that card anyway. Weather Painters, on the other hand, have multiple archetype searchers that makes it incredibly easy to search out whatever they need, so even if one of your back row is banished, you can just simply search for another copy from your deck and continue to control the board as if nothing happened. Having incredible search power and recovery ability allows Weather Painters to even survive a Black Rose Dragon without a problem, because your board would be fully recovered by the time your turn ends. Aromas don't have any way to search their own back row without their other synchro monster, Aromage Sweet Marjoram in the game. You have to rely on the skill balance to open with the back row you need. Another thing Weather Painters are extremely good at, is monster removal. Thundery Canvas is easily searchable within the deck, and can keep bouncing monsters back to the hand without targeting, bypassing both target immunity and effect destruction immunity. Even invoked Cocytus isn't a problem for the deck before it got banned. You can imagine how good the deck was when even a banned monster doesn't threaten the deck at all. Meanwhile in the Aroma archetype, they only have Dried Winds, a targeting trap that only destroys monsters once per turn, and which you can't even search. Many players don't even play dried winds because they would much rather have blessed winds or even humid winds in their starting hand, both of which actually helps you set up your board. We're coming to the end of the video, and I hope this is enough to convince you that there is literally no reason to play Aromages when you can play weather painters instead. I mean, you can argue that Aromages come from a mini box, which is cheaper than weather painters which come from a main box, but why not just spend a bit more gems to get a deck that's so much better overall? I can only think of one single reason to invest on Aromages, and it has to do with the card artworks, which is the only one single valid reason to play the deck, and I can totally understand. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video and perhaps made you change your opinion about Aromages, or leave a comment and tell me what you think if you think I'm wrong. Thanks for watching, goodbye.